As is normal, we're going to start this with a little bit of a promotional video, so enjoy this. Are you a business owner who you know intuitively something's wrong inside your company, regardless of whether you got 3 employees or 103 employees? My programs will work for you too. I can help you teach you how to train them, to get from them what they want, teach you how to evaluate them. I'm going to probably teach you about management by statistics because it's a really easy way to run a company. But if you're abhorrent to those kinds of solutions, I'll create new ones for you. And why do I know it'll work? Because it always has. And I'm 70 years old and I've been doing this for a long time. I'm going to tell you this, if you've got employees and you want them to be better at what they're doing, their confidence level needs to come up. And I've got a whole training regimen that I can put them through that just by doing the drills, their confidence level is going to come up and they're going to produce for you whatever you want. Okay, so our programs work for everybody. It just takes a little bit of fine tuning depending upon whatever. If you're a business owner and you got 10 people, I'm going to ask you, who's your best? Who's your worst? And I'll ask you this question every time. Why is the worst employee you have still working for you? Okay, and then we'll gradually work our way through the list. And then I'll figure out how you operate, and so will you, and you'll start to see that there's a way out of this trap. And I'll guarantee you that if you've got 10 employees and you know who the worst 10, 9, and 8 are, that you'll probably find that if you fire them, your business will just get better, even if you don't replace them. That's just a guess, just because it always works that way. Well, we're back, and no, this webinar is not about how to get rid of your lousy employees. That was just a teaser for you to understand that there's so many things that go on globally in your business that you don't put your attention on because you've got so much attention on either the delivery of your product or service or the sales cycles that obvious things are getting away from you. And now we're going to talk to you about how to get more clients or more sales, and the key is in follow-up. What does follow-up mean? Something that continues or completes a process or activity. Your business, your economy, your commerce is dependent upon your ability to see an activity all the way through to the end. And the end in this webinar is closing a deal, getting a contract, getting a client to hire you, getting someone to give you money to drive the car off the lot. Whatever business you're in, that's what your target is. Because you could be the world's greatest expert in nuclear physics, but if somebody doesn't want to give you money for your expertise, then you're not in business. And so what I'm trying to help you with is how to help you close deals. The first step is you have to commit to consistently following up to grow your business. In other words, just because you got one client one time doesn't mean that you're in business forever, okay? Most people in the United States are living paycheck to paycheck and are barely getting by. So this is a huge opportunity for you. If you don't want to do something, pay someone else to do it. It took me a long time to figure out when I was in my sales tax business that in order for the company to grow, I had to train other people to make our constant follow-up calls. And I used to do all of that myself. It's just at a point where your business grows so much that there are certain things that you need some help with, and that creates jobs for people. And my goal is to always expand my business to where I have more employees working for me than whoever thinks they're in competition with me, because then it helps me create the perception in the marketplace that I'm everywhere, that I'm able to handle the sales calls, I'm able to handle a delivery of my service, and it's the only way to do it. And if you don't want to do something, pay someone else to do it. Let's talk a little bit about CRMs, customer relationship management. And what I mean by that is a piece of software that helps you do your job to maintain the data that you need about potential clients and clients, and that you an automatic reminder remind you to do everything that you said you're going to do. Okay. And I can tell you this, I don't like any of them I've ever used, and they're extremely inefficient. But the thing that causes that inefficiency is it's only as good as the information that you put into it, and it's only as good as you understand how to use it yourself, and that you've trained everyone in your organization how to use that. And if it's used properly, you can sit, if you're the owner and you got 10 employees, you can see what they're doing. You don't have to get up and go stand next to someone's desk to see what they're doing. Okay. But so I would never suggest that you should not have a customer relationship management system. You need one, but then you have to commit to using it and learning how to use it. And then you have to commit to actually opening up this piece of software every day, because it doesn't work if you don't do it. Follow-up requires organization. You need to set aside time each day for your follow-up, whatever it is, however you deal with whatever product you sell, whatever service you offer, you need to organize that. Your desk needs to be clean and organized. Don't look at the top of mine right now. You should use notes within your CRM to have organized and consistent follow-up. And when you're a one-man band in the beginning, you're going to use all kinds of internal little abbreviations, but you got to be careful about doing that, because as you grow, or you have an admin person start doing some of the what you consider the administrative parts of that job, they're not going to know what you're talking about. You might as well be speaking in a different language. So if you're going to use a lot of little shortcuts, you make sure that you create a system that everyone knows what those mean. A script will always, always help you. There's never a time that anyone in this office makes a phone call that they don't have a script for. I won't tell you that I think everyone always uses the scripts, because people are people, but I've gone to the effort of creating scripts for everything. Because why? Because after doing something for as long as I've been doing it, I have a strong feeling about how things work, what works and what not work. So I wrote all these scripts down, okay? And you should have different scripts for the different kinds of calls you make. If you don't have one, still make the follow-up call. Remember that this webinar is about how to use follow-up to increase your revenue. After the call, write down what you said. Remember, this is under the subheading of if you don't have one. If you start making notes of what works and what doesn't work, validate if what you said works, okay? And only continue to do something that's working. If you do something and it's not working, change it. And then continue to say what works until you validate that it's no longer working. Be willing to modify those scripts, because things in the physical universe, the things in whatever business you're in, the structure of how people want to deal with, that's going to change, because you're dealing with human beings and they change every day. Accountability. We're going to talk a lot about this. In fact, make sure that you stay with this webinar to the very end, because I have a special offer for you that's going to help you personally in whatever you're struggling with. And I'm going to teach you how to use follow-up to increase your revenues. Okay. If you live amongst a population who's not accountable, not motivated, not organized, and not following up. A few slides in the future here, I'm going to give you some horrifying statistics about follow-up, and that should absolutely, at some point, it's going to drive home to you how important all this is. Secondarily, you have to have someone or something that holds you accountable, okay? Because if you're a person who's used to in January making a New Year's resolution, How many of those have you made? And it's probably at least one for every year, because we have a tendency as a population to only make postulates or New Year's resolutions once a year. You need to make them more often, and you have to find a way of something or someone holding you accountable to doing that. Okay. As a manager, organize a daily follow-up meeting. Make sure that people have an answer for these questions. Who are you calling today? Who was sold? Who was unsold? Who is not interested? And who said, never call me again? Every one of these, there's a specific process that I can show you about how to use, and those statistics for you closing new clients will start to go up. Follow-up requires having an unreasonable attitude, and that doesn't mean, hey, stupid, send me money. That means that you don't want to go into agreement with anything someone who you're calling is giving you as a reason not to hire you today or ever. You just have to be unreasonable about it. You have to keep pushing because you believe in your product, your service, and your company, and you know it's the right thing for them. You need to continue to find a reason to call and creative ways to follow up. If all you do is call them every month or every week and say, when are you going to hire me? How come you haven't hired me? Where's the money? I need the contract back. After a while, both you and the guy on the other end of the phone are going to get bored with that, and they're not even going to take your calls. And you need to be creative about the reasons that you call, because the real reason that you call is you're on this end of the communication line, someone else is on that end of the communication line. You need to constantly be flowing a particle along that communication line. And a particle can be a phone call. A particle can be leaving a message. Never call someone without leaving a message. And another thing, even though this isn't in the attitude, make sure that your phone number, the one that you want them to call you back on, is the number that shows up on their phone. If you've got one of these big systems that uses a hunt group, you've got to be careful, because a lot of times the number that you're calling out on isn't actually the number that people can call you back on. That's really confusing. So make a change. Check your system and make a change to it. If you stop following up, you are being worked, sold, and convinced not to do your job. You need to stop and think about that. Why did you stop following up with someone? Did you stop thinking you were the best? Did you stop thinking that you were the answer to their questions? Did you stop thinking that you had any value for them? And you need to do kind of an internal assessment to figure out why you started not believing that you were the answer. Because when you got the first call and they reached to you to find you were really enthusiastic about what you had to say to them, you knew that this was a potential new client. What took your attitude downscale from the day they first called you to now you're not thinking about following up with them anymore? They have the same reason. They still need you with the same reasoning that they did on the day that they called you, because they haven't hired you yet. And if someone hasn't hired you, that's your fault. You failed them, okay? If you believe that you're their answer, okay, then and you constantly stay focused on that, and your attitude constantly is reinforced for you, you'll never stop following up with someone. Here's a tough thing for people. You need to nurture your sold and unsold customers. Excuse me a second, I need a little water. Here's some statistics that will shake you, but these aren't the most earth-shattering ones. 65% of companies do not nurture their leads. That's like having a store that sells bottles of Coca-Cola, having somebody walk in your store, spend a few minutes around looking at the shelves and walked out, and you've never gotten into communication with them. Unless you think that you are God's gift to whatever it is, or the coolest thing since bread, you have to engage people. You must engage people. They didn't come into your store to buy Coca-Cola. They came into your store to get information from you. They came into your store to get answers to some questions. When they were walking by, they had a question or a problem that they wanted an answer to. If you let them come into your store and you don't get into communication with them, you're wrong. You're 100% wrong. They came there looking for information. It is your job to get into communication with them and answer their questions. 48% of all salespeople never call more than once. Think about that. They must not believe in their product. They must not believe in their service. They've been driven down tone by how hard it is to get somebody to get in communication with them. Whatever their reason is, if you're the owner of the company, it's your fault if they don't follow up. So you need to make sure that you have a way of seeing that the people who are doing the phone calls for you never allow this to happen. And you need to have company policies and procedures in a written step of things that you want them to do. Because if you are not holding your salespeople accountable to following those steps, then why did you bother to write them down? Okay. 25% of all salespeople never make a second contact. When was the last time you called somebody up and bought something the first time? It doesn't happen very often. Okay. Which side of the transaction you're on, you know from your own personal experience as a buyer of other people's products and services that you seldom buy right away. It does happen, but if they don't follow up with you and they don't continue to find out what's wanted and needed, they're failing to do their jobs. Well, that applies to you when people have reached to you. Continue to reach to them until they hire you. And don't be afraid to call them up after a month or 2 months and say, why didn't you hire me? What did I do wrong? Check out what yourself. Here's the most staggering facts that I've ever seen. 2% of all sales are made on the first contact. 3% of all sales are made on the second contact. 5% of all sales are made on the third contact. And if you use those accumulating numbers, you can see that even though you've called them 3 times, you're only in the 10% range. You're going to survive and you're going to grow on that other 90%. 10% of all sales contacts are made on the fourth contact. 80% of all sales are made on the 5th to the 12th contact. So what I do is I try to get to the 5th contact as rapidly as possible. You could literally do this in one day. Okay, if you believe that you're the right answer for that person, you have no problem doing this kind of follow-up. Okay, if you back off and you don't follow up on them, you need to sell yourself on your product or your service. Okay, because that's the only way that you're going to get to the point where your business is growing, or if you're a salesperson inside a company, the only way that your income is going to grow is to realize that these are the facts. These are national surveys where they've got all this information from. It's not industry specific. And the last one, which we've talked about once before, is 48% of all salespeople never call more than once. That's a failure. That's an absolute failure. Wouldn't you agree? Don't you want to grow? Don't you want your company to grow? Don't you believe in what you're doing? Be the first. There's a 500% increase in conversions if you follow up within the first 60 seconds of contact. It's hard to do, isn't it? I'm busy. Well, there's where you need more people. If you're in the service business, okay, and you're working on your existing clients, you need to have someone else doing the follow-up on your sales cycles. It's the classic battle if you're a solopreneur of balancing your sales times with your delivery times, okay? And this happens to everyone when they first start a business and they're the only employee. But if you follow up with these systems, okay, you'll be able to get everything done. And the other thing it's going to require of you, and this is going to be a tough thing, is that you need to realize that you've been lied to about working 9 to 5. Okay? There's no real world rule that includes only working 9 to 5 and taking the weekends off. Okay? I work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. My phone number is available to people. My cell phone number is available to people, and I encourage them to call me any time of the day or night whenever they have a question. I know that the questions that people have about what I'm trying to do don't only occur between 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. So I've got to be available. Are you courageous enough to take that level of a step? Do you believe enough in your products to do that? I do. Follow-up is done within 5 minutes of a lead, has a 9 times better chance of converting. You're doing whatever you're doing to get these reaches to you, to people that could potentially be new clients. Follow up. Make sure you stay in communication with them. It's like the courtship period, okay? Make sure that they do not forget about you. 35 to 55% of all sales goes to the first company to follow up. So refer back to the beginning. Okay, if someone reaches to us, they're liable to get a phone call or a text almost instantly. Indicate to other people that you're interested in providing the answers to whatever their questions. Indicate to people that you are the solution to their problem. All you got to do is find out what the problem is, and then you can become the solution. And that's hard to do if you don't talk to them. A company that calls a prospect first has a 248% better chance of closing the deal. So always be first. By texting a client in real time while they shop your product online, you can increase your conversions rate by 40 times. Okay, so if someone calls me and they're talking to me about something, oftentimes I text them things while I'm talking to them. Okay, indicate to people that you're interested in them, you're interested in providing the information they need, and that you are willing to be the solution to whatever their problem is. There's 5 major types of buyers. The need buyer. He has an immediate problem to solve. You've gotten into communication with him, and they're fairly simple to convert. The bargain hunter. Guy who's always looking for a deal. Okay, I will tell you a little secret about the deal hunter. Okay, do not ever lower your margins. Add value. If a guy wants a bargain on something, add something else to it at the price. Don't give up your gross sale in order to make a deal, because these people will drive you out of business if you constantly are looking for the bargain hunter. You're not, unless you think you're Walmart or the 98% clearance sale, it's not a way to survive. And typically it's hard to make up with volume selling at a loss, so don't do it. The impulse buyer. This guy can be easy to sell, but he's also the quickest to go into buyer's remorse. So be aware that this type of thing happens. Be aware that this is the kind of guy that, I'll sign up, anything, and you call him the next day, where's the contract you asked for? I got it. They're going to come up with 8,000 different stalls. The wanderer. This is, to me, a lot of the people that are on the internet who respond to certain things. They just, they see whatever reach you've given to them, and they feel like for a second they want to know something about it. And then you start communicating with them, and they go, oh, wait a minute, I was just kidding. Well, those guys they'll waste your time if you let them. Okay? And there's the habitual or seasonal buyer. Now here's what you have to answer. Can a single buyer be more than one of those types? They can. They can. Okay? If you want to get to closing them, and you're aware of all those, you just listen to what they say. Okay, and there's secrets to how to deal with their stalls and their objections and things like that. And I can train you all that. And I'm at the very end of this thing, I'm going to make a special offer to you that'll help you with this. Here's the reasons why people don't buy. They're not qualified. They can't disclose personal reasons. They're not a decision maker. How many times have you ever had somebody call you and you're giving them your whole pitch, and to get down to the very end and you give them your price, and they say, well, I'll take it to my boss. You should have found that out in the beginning. Okay. And once they say they're not a decision maker, try really hard, if they're calling you in, to get right then and there, get the decision maker on the phone. Otherwise, you could be wasting your time. They're not ready. They don't have enough information. This is certainly a problem that you can solve. Have things ready to send people. Have whether it's you do it in video or writing an article or using someone else's article you want to send them, have those things all ready to go. When someone asks you a question, fill that pipeline with information and keep filling it until they tell you that their question is answered. Okay? They're not prepared to buy. That to me is just a stall. Why'd they call you in the first place? Okay? And then refer to what's above. They don't have enough information. Just give them the information that they want. Don't be worried about, well, gee, if I tell them everything or I tell them how much it's going to cost, they're going to take it down the street and price shop. So what? Okay, aren't you confident enough in your own product that you can be price shopped? Let me tell you something. I don't care who you are, you can always find, the buyer can always find someone who will do it for less money. Okay, and I can teach you what to say and how to deal with that. And listen, I know how, you put all this work in and then all of a sudden they want to price shop you. You can't worry about that. If you have that on your mind while you're talking to them, the chances are that's probably going to come up. And it's hard to sell somebody if you're worried about giving them information. They could be on the wrong product. You could have somebody who's calling you who thinks you do exactly what they want, and while you're talking to them, you don't detect that, and that can happen at times. Okay, the reason they don't buy is because you were trying to pitch them on the wrong product. Make sure that you have lots of inventory or lots of services, and then you can shift them around between all of these products and let them make the decision. Here's something else that can happen. You don't know what they need. That's because you didn't ask them. Okay, you have to be not afraid to ask them important questions. Another thing that is brought up a lot is, well, the timing's not right. Well, I know that you want to say, well, what the hell did you call me for today? But that's not going to help you. And it all goes back to they don't have enough information, and it's your job to give them the information that they need. Here's some of the mistakes made in follow-up. You never made the follow-up call at all. Refer back to those statistics I gave you about how little follow-up is done. And this applies to you. If you are in a business that all of your competitors never make a follow-up call, don't you think following up would help you get more clients, sell more products? Just believe in it. Believe in what you're doing. You didn't make enough follow-up calls, or you don't have enough context. Okay? Whenever you're dealing with someone on a sales cycle, if you're worried about losing that sales cycle because you need the money or you need the clients, okay, the problem is real simple. You don't have enough people in your pipeline. Okay? The third thing is you didn't call on a consistent and frequent basis. The reason why I wrote down what you should do on day 1, day 2, day 3, day 37, day 365 is to create a process that keeps my people who are doing sales calls, they've got a guideline and they've got no way to not make that call other than insubordination. Okay? Another one is you wait too long to make a follow-up call. Think back what I said to you about you always want to be first in somebody's mind. You lack in variety of reasons to call. If you called every day and say, I want the money, here's how much it is, here's the contract, where's the money, can I have your credit card? Pretty soon, you and them both become bored with that, and you're losing that person. So you've got to be creative in your reasons to call, okay? And we have a list of reasons to call so that whatever we call them about this time, whatever we call them about the next time is a different. And the reason why that's hard is because you don't have enough variety of reasons to call, or you lack a purpose in the follow-up call. You're not calling people just to play dialing for dollars. You have to have a reason for the call. Okay. The biggest mistake that I think people make when it comes to follow-up is they don't leave a message. What did you call them for? Okay. That doesn't count as a follow-up call unless you leave them a message. All right, and you have to have some variety in those messages. Here's a big mistake. You don't ask for referrals. I ask people for referrals who haven't even hired me yet. Okay, and it's in our system that we ask for referrals almost on every call that we make to someone. Why? Because statistically, most people are willing to give you referrals, and statistically, people say that they would have given referrals if somebody would have asked. Well, that somebody is you. And all this goes back to, do you want to grow your business? Do you want to make more money? These are the things that you got to be careful of. And the last one is not using a CRM. It's hard to stay on top of all these cycles. And back in the old days, and I can say that being as old as I am, I tried to do this with a 31-day file and pieces of paper. And after a while, when I got to the point that I have hundreds of people to follow up on, I wasn't able to stay on top of it. So use the CRM. This is what computers can really help you with. Here's a list of tools for doing follow-up. And the fourth one on there is probably something that we've all forgot about. We all used to do it. Okay, we call people, we text people, and we email, but how many of us are ever handwriting a letter to someone? We don't think of the post office. Yeah, I just saw a report the other day that the post office lost $4 billion this year, and their reason for it is people aren't using the post office anymore. When you get a handwritten note from somebody, and this can be just a little card that has your company contact information on it, and all you say is thanks for getting in touch with me, and you know it closes the distance between the prospect and you. You took the time to handwrite something to them. That's a big deal to people because why? Because people aren't doing it anymore. Don't be afraid to make a personal visit to someone. We all tend to, we'll go out to, say, to trade shows because we're going to a spot that we think there's going to be a lot of people there. What was the last time you made a personal visit to someone who was an individual in a sales cycle? The apology contact, which we're going to get into a little bit later, is something that we all should do. Make videos. The lack of people who read anymore, whether it's books or articles, and their declining statistics, they're going out the bottom. If you want someone to pay attention, you almost have to give them response in video. I just recently looked at something on a specialized network and realized that books I had read in the past, they've now made into videos. And it's not a video of a guy sitting there reading it. It's a video that moves the concepts to the person who watches them. And all this is in reaction to the fact that people are no longer reading. They went from reading a book to listening a book, and now they're viewing the books. Okay. Social media reach. In some businesses it's great for, in some businesses it's not. You have to decide that. But don't make that decision without trying something. A photo is a way to put personalized certain things and certain communications. In our follow-up process, all of our salespeople will make videos of themselves talking directly to their prospect. It humanizes the communication on the other end. I think that with the advent of emails and texting, that the personal contact is falling out of our process of communication. And so they don't know who you are. Really, you're just letters on a page. Introducing a photo, introducing a video, introducing a text video. Okay, those are all tools. And I'm going to talk about the last two things, and most people are going to say, I don't know how to do this. I don't have the time. None of us have the time to do this. You have to create the time. I've been doing newsletters monthly for a couple of years, and I just recently, last month, started creating the video versions of my newsletters. And trust me, when you make videos of stuff, it takes you a lot less time than it took to sit down and write out the articles. And testimonials. Have at your disposal, whether it's a text or an email or a video, some client testimonials or some non-client testimonials who love you. Okay, have all of those tools available to you all of the time, and make sure that you use them constantly. The follow-up phone call allows you to actually speak with the person. Try their cell phone first, then the office phone number, and then finally the home number. Okay. You can get a sense of what they say and what they don't say by getting into actual voice communication. And I'm not talking about leaving messages and them leaving messages. I'm talking about you can hear when their certainty drops out, and it's your responsibility to drive it back up. In fact, we have a system here that while you're pitching someone on our service, okay, if you feel a comm lag, you immediately react to that by saying, do you have enough information to make a decision yet? That pulls them back into the communication cycle. That's why the phone call is so important. You can determine if they're a hot, warm, or a cold prospect. You can tell tire kickers. You can tell someone who's really has an intention and really has a need, and you can predict who's going to take some time to sell by having these phone calls with them. Whenever you call someone, have a clear and concise reason for calling. Calling someone asking them, how's the weather in Phoenix today, is an almost waste of your time. To me, that means you're just out of reasons to call, and your CRM told you to call, so you're calling. You have become a robot. You have to fight this because it can become real when your job is primarily phone sales. You have to have a new reason. You have to be creative about the reason to call them. Okay? Ask them for help by having them provide feedback or take a survey. Find out what people are interested in, and they'll tell you. All you got to do is ask them. Use text to follow up. A customer can get data, contact, images, link, while keeping distance. There's a phenomenon that occurs when people come into your office, presuming, let's say you're a car dealer, and somebody comes into your place, they almost feel an obligation because they've closed the distance and they now have close proximity to you, that they have to talk to you and they have to buy. The whole advent of the email system or the phone system is that they can maintain the distance. They feel a little bit less threatened. Okay. You have to use text to provide information overload. Text is easy, fast, and accessible. I had a particular client that I was calling, probably started out on daily, then it became weekly, and then at monthly cycles. And yet when I talked to him, I felt like he was a good prospect and that he really understood what we were doing and he really needed what we were doing. So one time on a Sunday morning, I sent him a text, and I was shocked. He answered right away. He says, I've been trying to have enough time to send your contract back to you, but I'm going to hire you this week. So don't believe that text is not powerful or valuable. Always stay professional, even though texting has a tendency to be casual. This kind of lines up within my tax business, where I tell people, when you're emailing, leave all the social commentary out of that, because remember that your email that we're using as a business support documentation could be used to support your business reason, can get muddled if there's a bunch of stuff in there about you going fishing and how much fun you had with somebody's wife and those kinds of things, because they don't need to know that you're a human being. They don't need to know that you party. They don't need to know that you like steaks and your favorite restaurant is. And that's when you're doing a business communication, stay professional. Leave the casual conversation completely out of it. Follow-up email is a weak and lazy form of follow-up. People are overloaded with emails. You don't know if they received it, and it likely went to a spam filter. Our company has a policy that we never believe anyone ever receives an email that we send them if we don't get an acknowledgement cycle. So even when we send out our contracts or proposals, we continue to follow up with them to make sure they got it, okay, if they don't respond right away. And in the email, it tells them to respond, okay. But we as a company never believe that just because we sent an email that the person that we sent it to actually got it. Keep your emails short. Try to always include a call to action. Please call me back right away, and leave your cell number. Have creativity and variety in your emails. Thanks for coming by. I saw this and thought of you. Congratulations, you won a free. It just don't become boring, because it's as detrimental to you making the close as to them buying something from you. If you're getting bored with it, trust me, they're getting bored with it too. Use variety. And follow-up emails can also include links to testimonials that should be on your website. Email should always be used as a follow-up to a call or a text. If we text someone, we in our office think about it as a call. And the policy is you always email someone right after you call them and leave them a message. Always. So when I look at our stats, a person who makes 205 calls better have more than 205 emails, or they're not following the process. Let's talk about the handwritten letter a little bit. No one else is using it. Okay? Nice meeting you. Handwritten letter, handwritten little card is really a personal connection. They know that you physically had your hands on that card, and because it's in ink and it's in cursive, which isn't taught anymore in schools, and I'll go over and get off on my soapbox if I talk about that too much, but they feel like it's a personal touch. Always include your name and direct phone number. Okay? Make some kind of a special offer. Have some kind of personal stationery and company stationery. No one does this anymore. Okay? You be the first on your block in your industry to do that, and you'll be surprised, pleasantly surprised. This is something that it depends upon what you're selling, that I would guess that almost no one does. Okay? This is the most personal, powerful form of follow-up that indicates that you left your location, went to their location. Okay, you've indicated a huge amount of interest, and you believe in your product. Don't be afraid to walk in and see someone in person. If you want to make it even better, bring them a coffee, a pie, a cake. In my case, bring me apple fritters. Dropping in for a personal visit separates you from the competition. One of the biggest keys, if you want to have an advantage over other people who provide same or similar products or service, is be willing to do what other people won't do. I told you we were going to come to this subject, so here we are. The apology follow-up can be an in-person visit, a handwritten note, or a phone call. You're going to apologize for not making them certain enough in your product and your company that they haven't hired you yet. You can even use this in person when you've failed to close a deal. Ask them for feedback. What did we do wrong? What did we miss? What could we have done differently? I find that people will tell you exactly the answers to these questions, and you'll get better. But you have to be sincere and be interested when you make this apology. When you're in this part of this, what did we do wrong because they didn't hire you? Be very careful of not making them wrong. They have a right to hire anybody. They have a right to use their own personal reasons for not choosing you, but ask them what you could have done different to change their mind. Video. As we've already stated, video is everywhere. All the top companies are using it. So because people believe what they see and they love video. The average American watches 750 videos a year and only reads one book. No one just reads texts anymore, okay? They want to see it. It's just the way that we've progressed with our ability to communicate with fellow human beings, and video right now is the best way to do that. Always shoot your videos with something stable in the background. We use a white screen so that's not distracting, but if you're doing it on your phone and you want to make it solid and stable, good video, do it with your back to a wall. And if there's something on that wall that indicates the kind of business you're in or something about that you believe in philosophically, make sure that that's there. And don't forget this, the light needs to be in front of you, shining on your face. You don't want to have it coming off the back so you've got this little halo and they can't see the features in your face. It's about personal contact. Okay, and here's the last one, and this is hard for people to understand, especially people who make videos for professional use, and you're making them with your phone. Film the video in one take and don't rewatch it. That's hard to do, but you are going to be so critical of the way that you look that you're going to want to make this a perfect video. And you're not making a movie where you get 150 chances to get it just perfect, okay? The most important thing is that you're a human being who's reaching out to another human being, and that is what you want to convey, okay? And there's not any one thing that you can say or do that's going to ruin the deal, so don't worry about it, okay? The fact that you took the personal time to make the video is powerful to them. In fact, we won't at our sales tax company, we won't hire anyone who won't send us a video first. That's one of the first lines of before. If you want to come to work for us, because we're always hiring, that's one of the things that you have to do. Social media follow-up: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, Instagram, YouTube, and whatever the new company of the week, because there's always new sources. I think I've seen a thing called Alignable and that kind of stuff. Be aware of it. Try it, okay? Just because Facebook doesn't work for you doesn't mean Twitter's going to work for you. Just because LinkedIn works for you doesn't mean that Facebook and Twitter are going to work for you. You have to try all of these channels, okay, and just try it. You might be surprised. Once you get into this method of using social media, you have to make posts, and that is the hard thing for people to understand. You don't write an article and publish it and hope people come to you on their own volition and read those articles. You've got to send things out to make people come to your website to look at that article. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. Who are you writing the article for? Okay. If it's a reach for a new client, you need to promote that stuff. And there's no such thing as too much promotion. Those of you who know me in my aircraft and vessel sales tax business know that Probably a lot of people don't like what we do because they say we promote too much. How do you think we grew to be the biggest company? Okay. How do you think I've dealt with the fact that the single largest problem all companies has is obscurity? The only way to start at this point and rise to this point is to do things that overcome obscurity, and social media is one way to do that. Look on their social media accounts to find out what they're looking at or expressing an interest in. If you're going to really make a commitment to social media, you have to have someone inside of your company who's that's their job and has time to go do a little bit of background research and look into people that you're trying to communicate with and find out what they're looking at. As a salesperson, a manager, or an organization, you need a social media presence. I'm a guy that up until 2016 used to brag about being an analog guy surviving in a digital world. And just by changing my mind and embracing the whole concept of social media, I was able to take a company that had basically had this kind of increases and drove it just like that, just by doing this one step. Always include photos in social media posts. Photos get people attention. It's not going to help you if your social media posts are all text because people don't read anymore. And how often do you get something? I left you a message yesterday. Call me. It's urgent. I'm the solution to your problem. We're all becoming immune to those urgent requests. Get creative. Take a photo of something you saw that reminded you of the client. Always have photos of if you have tangible products. People need to see stuff, okay? And this strategy will help you continue to break down the barrier between you and the client. Newsletters and blog follow-ups. Commit to writing a newsletter or blog post regularly. This creates content so you can send to clients as follow-up, post them on your website so that they're always there, and then you can send a link to that to get people to come back to your website. The more content you're creating, the easier it is to get out of obscurity. Include groups you'd like to do business with into your content. Testimonial follow-up. Collect these from sold and unsold customers. Ask for their feedback about your company, yourself, your services, and how they are considering using your services. This often allows for the customer to sell themselves on your service or product. That's why we ask for testimonials from people who haven't hired us yet. You're asking them for a feedback. Tell them about the company and how they are considering your service. You're walking them back into a potential sales cycle. And as I mentioned before, 76% of people said they would be happy to give a testimonial if somebody would actually ask them. Here's a word of caution. People only buy from people they know, like, and trust. They have to know and remember that you are interested in your business. That's the underlying reason why we constantly follow up, because we're indicating to people that we're interested in them. Stop worrying about appearing desperate or a nuisance or pressuring someone unless you don't believe in your product. Okay? If you know that your service is the best service for them, then you have to continue to follow up. Let people know you're hungry for their business and that you will do whatever it takes to earn it. Until you come out of complete obscurity and grow giant credibility, you have to do whatever it takes and continue to follow up. That pretty much is the end of our presentation. So here is something that I'm going to talk to you about, our special offer. We offer a 90-day coaching program for you. You can hire us as an individual and take you through these processes to improve your ability to make more money. You can hire us for one of these programs and as a business owner, and I will take you personally through things from the viewpoint of being the owner, but they all work for you. And let me read to you the details. You'll receive a 60-minute initial assessment with me or someone in my office to discover which topics and training materials best suit your needs. You'll receive a 10x success planner with a 30-minute goal planning and motivation session. We have these planners that cover 60 days of the calendar, okay, and we use them and we review them for everyone every day, and I'll teach you how to use it, and it will improve your business. You'll receive 12 45-minute coaching sessions. These sessions will be scheduled at the start of the program and will work most successfully if they are consistently held at the same time and day of each week. The accountability part. It's like going to a gym and walking around and deciding whether which machines you're going to do that day versus having a mentor or a coach with you and telling you what to do. We can do these in person. We can do these over Skype or through a phone call, whichever works best for you. And you'll receive the accountability from us by leaving each session with action steps to complete between sessions, okay? Some actions may actually require a daily check-in with the 10X staff to keep you on track and motivated. This program goes on for 90 days. Our regular price on it is $2,500. Currently, we're running a year-end special, and we're doing it at $19.95. Please call Kelsey in our office. If you don't have the money, the $19.95 today, she'll make you a special payment deal. You can reach her at 916-691-9192 extension 201, and she'd love it if you'd call her within the next 10 minutes. So that's it for today. If you're watching this video and it's not live, she'll still take your call. Thank you for your time.